everybody, it's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones, and welcome in to On the Hunt, where we go on the hunt for Bigfoot, Dogman, reptilians, you name it. Whatever's out there, we're looking for it. And tonight we are going on the hunt with my buddy, Carter Buschardt. Okay, he's a boots on the ground, I was going to say field researcher, but he's a boots on the ground field researcher, just like myself. He's an investigator of Bigfoot and has a lot of interesting experiences. Okay, and some experiences similar to mine, because when you are in tune with the paranormal and cryptids, you pretty much get to experience the whole scale, y'all. Okay, including potential alien abductions as well. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. I am really looking forward to this show. I'm super excited that you guys are here tonight. And thank you all so much for spending your Saturday night with us tonight. It makes me feel amazing having y'all here. Okay, if you guys would like to follow along with my shows, please go to my website. That's thecryptidhuntress.com. You can find all of my shows. There's links to, I was on Coast to Coast, y'all. I did the Coast to Coast. That was this week. And I was interviewed by George Norrie this week. And so that is up there on my website as well. If you guys want to go listen to that, you can find the link on my website. It was amazing. By the way, I had a couple of friends that called in at the end of that show. I had Larry Sharp. I don't know if you're in here tonight, but Larry called in. I didn't realize it was him until after he hung up. And also Drewski of Cryptid Warfare Podcast. What's up, Drew? If he's in here tonight, he called in as well. It was a blast. It was so much fun, y'all. George is the bomb. Okay. So, but anyways, that's there. And yeah, all of my shows are there on my website. All of my social media sites and everything, you can access it all right there. Also, I am going to be at a bunch of events coming up. A bunch. I'm at a few, not a ton, but a few here, a very select few. If you guys are interested in coming to see me in person and live and joining me at a conference or a squatch out, there might be like 1 or 2 tent sites left for the Tennessee squatch out, the East Tennessee squatch out. If you guys want to come up for that, that's going to be a lot of fun in September. Okay, but we also have the World UFO Conference, the Full Disclosure Now Conference, and the Appalachia Starseed Reunion. So y'all come see me. Okay. All right, y'all. Also, if you'd like to support my work and everything I'm doing, y'all can join my Patreon. That's the Cryptid Huntress on Patreon. And my shop is War Woman Goods. Free merch with purchase. Okay, so y'all go check that out on Etsy. Okay, let's get to our show tonight. Because we have so much to talk about tonight. Let me go ahead and introduce our guest. Carter Buschardt has been an investigator with the BFRO for 13 years, for the last 13 years, originally from Texas and currently lives in Missouri. He's had at least 100 reports published to the BFRO website and has interviewed over 400 witnesses and counting. He's an experienced outdoorsman and trained as an investigator for MUFON. He studied herpetology in college. Longtime special interest in Sasquatch long-term habituation sites, burial research, infrasound language, and stick structures. He's a true boots-on-the-ground field researcher, investigator, and not a desktop warrior. I love that. He has met and visited the properties of nearly half of the witnesses whose reports have been published. He monitors and visits several properties with ongoing habituation activity to this day. You guys, I got to hang out with Carter and his wife at the Reno Spaced Out Radio fan party. He was there. I got to interview him live that day and had such a great time. And boy, he is a wealth of knowledge. Please help me welcome to On the Hunt tonight, Carter Buschardt. Hey, Carter.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's a Saturday night. Normally, I'd be watching wrestling on TV or something. So this outshines that by far.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. So you're another wrestling fan. Our friend Barry Littleton likes wrestling as well. Okay, so he's a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And I get to watch wrestling. So
yeah, my mom back in Texas when it was the black and white TV, Fritz von Erich, the von Erich family was huge back then. She would watch wrestling at home alone all night into the wee hours by herself. I think that's, she never remarried or anything after she got divorced, and so I think that was her excitement.
That was her escape. That was her escape. Yes.
Yeah.
I used to love wrestling. I watched wrestling as a kid, and I used to watch Glow, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, because my dad used to watch that, of course.
Yeah,
So
well, see, that there's an attraction for both sexes,
there are.
you know.
There are. Cosmic Joe Chronicles, thank you for that super sticker. I really appreciate that. That is very sweet. Yeah, we've got a nice audience in here tonight, Carter, and I know you and I have some things in common when it comes to Bigfoot field research, and
Yep.
you've been in it for some time, and you've taken well over 400 reports for the BFRO. Tell me how you got into the Bigfoot phenomenon.
Well, I got into it because I'd had an interest since I was 10 or 11, and I couldn't even tell you why, other than I saw Leonard Nimoy on In Search Of, and that was my first exposure to the Patty film, and I went, I'm hooked. That's real. I love it. I just knew in my little 10-year-old head that that was a real being. The hoaxing and none of that kind of stuff even came into my head. That's when I got the bug, literally. And so a few years later, after we got married, we took a trip to Washington State, and we were hoping to see something, but I was just a tourist, and I believed they existed, and I knew they were on every street corner, so it's just a matter of time. Blah, 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 blah. Of course, that never happened. But we took a walk into the woods in the Olympic area, and we had rented a cabin from a couple of guys, and we were staying, and we decided to take a hike, and I found, because I had to take a leak. I had to go behind a tree, take a leak. I looked down, and there's an ammo box, a big ammo box chained to the tree. I'm thinking, oh my God, I found somebody's stash. Now, they had just legalized pot in Washington State, where you could grow it and have it, but you were not encouraged to go hiking in the woods because there were booby traps from the pot growers, the illegal guys. So I was just certain that I'm standing there relieving myself, and there's this box that could blow up at any minute. But I got to looking at it. The curiosity got me. So I grabbed a stick. I'm left-handed. I grabbed a stick with my right hand and pried the thing open. So if it blew off my left hand, I could still write. That was my logic.
Oh my God.
But inside, what we found was a geocache. You know what that is, right?
Of course, yes.
The game, yeah. Well, inside, if anybody doesn't know what geocache is, it's a worldwide game where you're just given coordinates, longitude and latitude coordinates, and you've got to go find that area and find whatever's there. And so this box was part of the geocache, and inside the box was a little book. You sign it, you sign your name, and you take something and you leave something. And so the thing on top was a Bigfoot researcher investigator card from Washington State. So I took $1 out and put it in there. I took this guy and I called him. Long story short, I got hooked up with a crew here in Missouri, and I said, how do I get to be a researcher? I said, well, you need to go on some expeditions, and you need to be found. You need to be found to be relatively intelligent and well spoken, and you got to kind of know your stuff. So I went on a couple of expeditions with them, and long story, I ended up taking over for the guy they had here. They fired him. They fired him twice for not doing a great job. But anyway, I took over for him. So I led 4 expeditions for BFRO, 3 here in Missouri and 1 in Illinois in 2019. And that's how I got into it. And I started doing reports. And that's how you kind of make your way into the thing. You start talking to people, they file reports. I even looked up, my first report was in 2011. And it's now 2024. So I started doing reports, and it's a real tedious thing, but I'm a paperwork freak. I was a realtor in real life, still am technically. And so I make copies of everything. So I made a copy of the report, and then you call the person and talk to them and get all the stories and all the details. And then I turn it in for publication and I make a copy of that. So I've got before and after. So that's how I got into it. But the people, I guess they just trusted me, or it took a while, but they started telling me things after the interview would go like this, hey, this is Carter with BFRO. We want to talk to you about your thing. And they tell me their event. And after that, a lot of them started going, now, can I tell you something you may not believe? And I'm going, well, okay, you're telling me you just saw a creature that doesn't exist and you want to tell me something I won't believe. Well, bring it on, baby. It's got to be good, And so this is when the paranormal stuff started coming in. They were telling me things that, it disappeared. It spoke to me. I saw orbs. It walked into a tree and did not come out the other side. It just walked in. All that kind of stuff. 50% of all Sasquatch sightings when I started were road crossings. I was driving down the highway late at night, blah, 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 see one run across the road. Nothing wrong with it. That's incredibly exciting. If you're not into this, you don't even know or believe they exist, and you see one, it knocks your socks off. So I'm not putting that down by any means. To see one live like that is really incredible. But after a while, as a researcher, that gets to be kind of redundant. And, I'm glad you had that. But then they were holding back, a lot of people. And they were holding back because of fear of ridicule.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw a Sasquatch? Oh, really? Uh-huh. Well, let's have Bob over to the company party on Christmas and let's give him some crap. So people don't want that. That's a truly life-altering event. And people don't like mockery and being made fun of, and being shunned by your, spouse, significant other, coworkers. He's crazy. So people just quit talking about it, until they found a format or person they could trust, and they would start telling me just bizarre stuff that was definitely frowned upon by BFRO at the time.
Well, that's what I was going to, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's what I was going to ask, because we hear, I have several of my teammates or members of BFRO. T-Bone, thank you for that super sticker, by the way. I want to thank you for that big time. Thanks. I appreciate you. Okay. I have David Pardue in the chat. Okay. He's a very good friend of mine, and he's a member of my team. And he is also with North Carolina Cryptid Field Research Organization and BFRO. He does some work with BFRO as well. And he says that he heard the same stuff when he was with the BFRO in North Carolina.
Yeah.
You hear some wild stuff. Now, when you were taking these reports, we hear some people say, I'm not saying David did, it's not David, okay? But I've heard from other people that BFRO sometimes leaves out the paranormal type of things that happen along with the Bigfoot sightings. Did you include those in your reports, or you didn't leave them out, did you?
I didn't leave them out. Somebody took them out.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, I don't know, you may know this guy, Nick Shaughnessy.
Yeah, yes, I know Nick. Absolutely. Yeah. He actually used to do after hours on Spaced Out Radio.
No, I did his show. I've done about 8 or 9 with Dave, but I've did a couple with him. He was one of my witnesses that reported a sighting, and I turned it in, and it was published. And I didn't go back and look at a lot of my reports because I was getting so many published. I was really knee deep in it. And I didn't go back, but I got a call from him, and he was irate. Carter, what the heck is this with my report? This isn't what I told you. I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean? He said, they took out stuff. So I reread. Now, I had my report that I had already printed, and I had his report before that. So I knew what I turned in, and it had been redacted. They took out stuff that defined intelligence or described other things that they do not want to have their name on. So
So that
very
explains.
unfortunate.
Yeah, it is upsetting because, like you said, people are already hesitant to talk about it. But then it's almost like they're being discredited once the actual report comes out because they don't add that. Now, when I have brought this up with people, and you also are trained with MUFON as well, that's the UFO Mutual UFO Network for y'all.
Mhm.
If anybody didn't know, I believe.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of UFO activity in the field when we're out there doing Bigfoot field research. But people at MUFON, like some of their reasoning for not including Bigfoot sightings with their UFO reports is because they're not focused on Bigfoot. They're only there for the UFOs, they say. Okay,
Well,
but that's not a good practice in my opinion. But that's
no,
just
it's
my
not.
opinion.
It's not. And I've got several of my habituation families
Mhm.
that see craft right after or right before a Sasquatch sighting, or they will see a Sasquatch right before or right after UFO sighting. And
Yeah,
at first you go, "Yeah, boy, I don't know," but after a while, uh, it makes sense. Mike Harrington with the pork and beans.
yes, of course.
He's got this great document, and it's called, uh, gosh, what is it called? Gosh dang it. It's a study that he did when he was, I think he wrote this paper and did this experiment with many, many other college students. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it basically talks about when people were abducted,
Mhm.
taken aboard a craft, who or what were the most prevalent other beings on the craft besides other abductees. And the study had one requirement: you had to be awake from the moment you were taken until the moment you were returned to your home or wherever you were taken from. You had to be awake. You
That's
couldn't.
probably a slim amount of people, a slim percentage, I would think.
Yeah. Well, they got about 2,000 people worldwide, and this was like, uh, and I'm trying to find that, but if I don't, you could look it up, or you could contact the Pork and Bean Show. He's glad to share that. But grays, both the short ones, which are the drones, and the tall ones, the 5 or 6 footers, which are the real grays, and the little 3 and 4 footers are the clones, the drones that do the work. And then the tall white Nordics, Sasquatch. There were 5 creatures or beings that the majority, out of all they mentioned in the top 5, Sasquatch was in there on the craft, belonging there. They were not abducted. They're not doing animal research. They were there,
Just there.
walking around like they own the place.
Oh, wow. I'm
Yeah.
not surprised at all because there is a connection. I just don't understand what the connection is. But we have oftentimes encountered UFO activity when we're doing our Bigfoot research, and there are Bigfoots in the environment.
Yeah.
And a matter of fact, but you and I have a little something else in common. Not only the Bigfoot stuff, but the aliens. Okay, and I want to ask you about that in just a second because um, after I started doing Bigfoot field research, Carter, I had an incident where there were some low-flying UFOs in the environment. I went home, and later on, I started having ETs in my bedroom
Mm-hmm.
from the Bigfoot research. Now, you seem to have realized that you had been being visited by ETs at some point in your life too, right?
Yeah. I didn't know it. I didn't find out about it until 21 years ago, 2003 or 4. I found out by accident that I had been abducted as a child and taken aboard a craft numerous times. Things were done to me, or things were attempted to be done to me. They did a lot of things to my friend. And so that may have been psychological, because this started when I was like 7 or 8. I'm 72 now. So I didn't find out until 20 years ago. So for 50 years of my life, I was living in total ignorance of that. You know, I was seriously interested in aliens. And that's why I trained to be an investigator with MUFON. The guy that was training me talked me out of it, he said, because, surprise, the government was taking the good reports and taking stuff out of it and telling us, we're taking over from here. You never touch this report again. When they got
well, they
good
still
stuff,
do that.
huh?
Yeah, they still do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's their MO.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
what they do, because we are not worthy of knowing that. You know. So anyway, but that's, that highlighted a lot of my Sasquatch research, was being able to connect with people and understand that they were seeing these craft, and they were also seeing orbs. So they would see an orb, just as I mentioned, they would see normally the color was a blue. They would see a blue orb right before, or right after a Sasquatch event, or they would see a blue orb right before, or right after a UFO event. So it was all kind of tied in. I could talk with all of them, because I could relate to it all. And I didn't even know at the time I was taking these reports. I didn't know that had been going on. I found out 20 years ago, which is about when I started the research. But I took the tapes. I've been regressed 7 times by 4 different regressionists, including Dolores Cannon twice.
Oh, wow. You actually had a regression with Dolores Cannon herself?
Yeah, twice, 2 of them, 2005, 2010. And
What a trip.
the women that took me under were all her students. So the last one that regressed me in October of last year was a 3rd tier. That's the upper tier of her system. If you're a 3rd tier regressionist, you have met all the criteria, whatever it is, but you've met all the criteria. You've done regressions, you've done abductions, you've done abuse, you've done all of that, and you can take somebody back and bring them back, back to relive the memory, and then bring them back, and they're none the worse for wear, other than, maybe a few tears, and you're reliving something horrific, but you've got an explanation for it. So, but anyway, so that's how I began relating to these people. And then they knew I would tell them my stories and things I'd seen Sasquatch do, or that other people had told me, and they were so relieved, because, oh my God, I thought you were just gonna go bonkers on me. My friend, while now hunting in Canada, came face to face with the Bigfoot and had talked to him telepathically, basically saying, "Yo, get out." Happened twice.
Yo, get out.
Well, they have come to me and spoken to me when I made contact with a clan in 2019, when I was leading that expedition in Illinois. And it was a monumental event and moment, and one I won't forget. And it was, really a pivotal moment in my research, and that was this book.
Here, I'll pull a picture up of it. Let's see. Here we go. I got it up on the screen.
There you go. Okay, cool.
I can see it. Yeah,
now there was this expedition I led started right before COVID. 2019 is when I led this expedition. It had been scheduled and then canceled by the guy that was going to do it. and I think he probably lived in Illinois somewhere. And everybody got their money back, but 4 people said, "We want to go. We don't want to cancel. We want to go. We've made plans." So they sent out, BFRO sent out an APB. Hey, does anybody want to do an expedition in Illinois? These people are dying to go. And, I've got a very good friend who's a researcher there, and we've done a lot of things together. And so I got him to help me. And I took these 4 people out. On this log, you will see the 4 rocks behind that long pointy rock. Well, those are the 4 people that I took out. The pointy rock is the leader. That's me. At the very other end on the right side is a short round rock. That's the 6th person, which is my partner, who was there, but he wasn't there because he has had strokes and cancer, and so he cannot traverse really rugged terrain. And this was really rugged area. This was in the Trail of Tears, and a lot of sadness and a lot of vibes, a lot of stuff going on there. So I found this log with these rocks on it when I went back to retrieve a camera. I left a camera. I said, well, we may not get back down here, so I'm going to leave a camera just to see if I get a picture. Chances are I won't, but I guarantee you I won't if I don't leave a photo. Yeah. So, and you can't say you won't get a photo because you do get photos on trail cameras. So anyway, I went back to get the camera. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and those rocks were on there. They were not there the night before. I'm going, where do these come from? What the heck? And then I suddenly realized, oh my God, that's me. That's me and the 4 people. And that's Harold at the other end. Holy crap. Nobody was out here last night. I mean, this would have had to happen after about 11 o'clock at night. Nobody was going out there.
And they're white quartz too. And that's, every time I go in a Bigfoot investigation or a research area, I always put a piece of quartz in my pocket. I love the white rocks out there. Yeah. I don't know why. I'm always picking those up. Always.
Yeah. So connection. I'm freaking out. I'm seeing this, and I called Harold back at camp. He goes, "You won't believe this." I'm telling him what I am seeing. He's going, "Oh my God, that is awesome." So then I called my wife because I was about to grab my camera and go back home. We've been there for several days, and I told her what happened. And she goes, "Well, what time was this?" So I don't really know, but it had to have been after dark, at least after 8 or 9, because we were there until 11 o'clock, and there was nobody out there running around with us in this area, the Trail of Tears. When I was asking around the restaurants in town, the little mom and pop breakfast joints, where this is what I do when I research. I go scout. Everybody said, I was saying, I'm looking for Sasquatch. Is there a really good place to go around here? So, well, I know where you don't want to go. This area over here, you don't want to go there. There's so much weird stuff going on there. There's not a man, woman, or child that will go there after dark at night ever. No way, no how. No, that's where I'm going. Thank you. And tell me. And so that's where I actually got some pictures of some purported Dogman too. That's a whole nother story. So I go. And, my wife has said, well, what time? I said, I don't know. She goes, well, about 9:30 last night, I was getting ready for bed, and a blue orb comes into our house, into my bedroom, flies around a couple of times, and flies into the bathroom and disappears.
No way.
That was them giving me a shoulder tap. I know where you live. You're one of the cool guys now. You're part of the clan. Yeah. Euphemistically speaking, And so I said, how do you know it was in the house? I said, well, I saw it, and I also saw its reflection in the mirror. So it was in our bedroom flying around, and then flew into the bathroom and disappeared. So that was me 300 miles away. They're making contact with my home, and with the rocks on this log. That's all I needed. Not that I didn't have plenty of evidence before that they are aware of who you are and what you do, and that you're either a good person or you're not.
Right.
And
I have a connection actually, Carter, that I wanted to bring up
yeah,
because there was a night I do have David. Like I said, I have David Pardue in the chat tonight. He's part of my team, and there was a night where my team captured a portal. I talk about this a lot on my channel, but we captured a portal, and I had gone home that afternoon right before all this happened. So I'm at home. They're having this significant event out in the field where there's a portal that opened, a bunch of other weirdness, high strangeness was going on. And I'm at my home, and these two orbs showed up in my house, and we have them on video dancing around my son. And I had never had orbs like that in my house before.
mm-hmm.
And so while they were having that extremely significant event, a historical event, groundbreaking event, I'm having orbs in my house. So it was weird that the same time that you were having stuff going down, your wife was at home seeing orbs. My team was having stuff going down. I have orbs in my house at the same time.
Yeah.
I wonder what that is.
Well, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Now, outside Tesseract asked, are those rocks common in that area? Yeah,
Yes.
They are really common. That is a really rocky terrain. It goes downhill. And that log that was in the book that she showed, that's where we stopped because we were unable to go any further past that at night because one of the ladies was getting a little spooked. One of the ones that was adamant about going. Well, now, we never saw them, but we cast a lot of prints and we heard them. They followed us as we walked down this ravine. You could hear them up here on both sides. At that site, 94 Native Americans died in the 1800s trying to get to the Mississippi River, which is just down the highway, and they froze to death.
Oh my God.
And so that's why nobody goes there at night, because there's a lot of weird stuff going on. And we experienced some of it. When there was a big flood that came through there, and it washed a lot of the Native American graves out. Their bodies or skeletons and stuff were exposed and all that because, and so they repaved the whole area. They paved the parking lot and paved part of the road, and that stopped the erosion and the flooding. But that was why nobody went there at night ever, and I think that's why the Sasquatch kind of like that area, because it's protected.
Oh yeah. Well, and also, so I've kind of brought this up a couple of times on the show where our friend William Nighthawk, friend of the show, Native American, he's a shaman, medicine man. Okay, he was telling us that lands like that, like very sacred land, especially where people have passed away, where their bodies are buried, is either blessed or cursed by local shamans and medicine men, and they are and medicine women, and they call on the nature spirits and the cryptids to go and protect that land at all cost. Okay, protect it at any cost. And so that is why we have a lot of dogmen around cemeteries and Native American Indian mounds. Okay, and places that are sacred, like where those people passed away on the Trail of Tears there.
Yeah. And part of the reason it's still spooky is they had to find Native Americans to rebury in the proper, they were all wrapped in red blankets. So they had to, before they could reinter them, they wanted them to be blessed and wrapped in the same type of blankets and whatever else that they were used when they were buried in the first place. And since some of that had disintegrated and disappeared during the flood and all that, so it didn't get done right away. I understand it got done eventually, but it took multiple years. The list of commonality, Mike Carroll's list of commonality, that is the list, and I can send it to you, of the top 5 beings, ETs, cryptids, whatever, found on craft when they're abducting humans. Sasquatch was in there.
Wow.
So I'll send that to you. It's interesting. It's interesting.
I would love to see that. We actually got in a conversation last night. I was on the Dogman Vortex podcast with the West Coast Dogman Project guys, Shane and Todd. And they were talking about, I think Todd brought up UFOs and Dogman. And we were basically having the same conversation you and I are having here about Bigfoot and UFOs with Dogman and UFOs last night, because people report UFO sightings around Dogman sightings.
Yeah. And it's, I just in the last couple of years have taken a couple of Dogman reports where a Dogman was seen after or before a Sasquatch event. Mm-hmm. And coincidentally, where these 2 sightings are in a place called Amarugia Ridge. It's a conservation area here in Missouri. It's got a heavy Native American history, and they worship them, and they believe they exist down there in this area. Now, I didn't go down there. I just interviewed the witnesses, and because it's the guy and his girlfriend who saw a white Sasquatch about 11 o'clock at night. They were hauling us back to the car, and the girl made it a long time before he did, and he couldn't get in the car because she had the keys. It's kind of funny. But
she locked doors.
Yeah, when they got to the car and he finally got in the car, that's when they saw what he described it as Anubis from the Brendan Fraser movie, The Mummy. That was his description point. He couldn't think of what to call it, but it looked like it had the backward legs. He described it as the Anubis with the backward legs, really, skinny, scrawny legs and really big, powerful torso, big, wide shoulders, just like the Sasquatch. And they both saw it. And of course, what do you do with that? We saw it, but they're like anybody else. They called me because of the Sasquatch down there. And it's a sacred area, and nobody's allowed to hunt in certain areas of the Amarugia conservation area.
So that's government owned, pretty much, like a WMA kind of thing, where
I don't know if it's state or national government. I think it's state. It's a conservation area. I don't know that they monitor, but it is very sacred to the tribes that still live down there, the Native Americans down in that area. But it just, many, many times, I've seen and heard things at night when you can't really define things. That could have been a Dogman as well as a Sasquatch in physical appearance only. If I'm looking at tall, gigantic humanoid shapes moving like a shadow through the night, as you see the, backlit from the moon, and you see these giant humanoid things moving. Well, they're something. They're not people. They're not gorillas. They're moving with intelligence and planning. So, you see that, and you really can't say what it is, but, I'm a Sasquatch researcher, and I'm researching an area, and my area that I have here in Missouri is really, really hot, very, very fruitful. But you don't know what you're seeing. So I could have been seeing one, or the witnesses could have been seeing a Dogman instead of, unless they can exclusively say, no, this was a Sasquatch. This is the one I see every day at my house, or something like that. And I have witnesses that tell me that. I mean, they see them. I have 8 or 9 families that I monitor. They're free to call me anytime. I'm free to come out and visit them as long as I call them up and say, hey, I'd like to come out. And I've experienced some of these beings there, and it's a joy. It's so cool and awesome, and they come to me at night sometime, and they show me where they live. They show me things, and so I'm one of the cool guys. I've made it, in the clans that, they are showing me where they live, And there's a lot of weird things going around our house that I assign to them and not to ghosts or paranormal type things. I some of the things that happen here, I know it's them, you know.
That's one of the things I love about you and your research is that you understand that there's so much more out there. It's not just you're out there, taking Bigfoot reports, but you're open to, that there's other stuff going on too. And
Yeah.
you have an open mind. And that's
You
like
have
my
to.
number, you got to have an open mind, right? Because that's
You
my
got to
number one
do it.
requirement. Yeah.
Yeah, I've said this so many times, and I did a show last week, a couple weeks ago on Hydrosec, his show with his son, and
Yeah. I've
like
been,
I said, you don't have to believe, you just have to consider
yeah.
the possibility that there is something more. He goes, I like that thought. You have to just consider. Consider is not believing; it's just considering. I said it's my Brussels sprouts theory. You go to dinner at someone's house, the host brings you a plate, steak, potatoes, and Brussels sprouts. You go, I hate that stuff. Well, you
I
don't
love
want to insult her, so you spread it around, you cut on them a little bit, you put them in your mouth and chew them. When she's not looking, you spit it out, whatever. But you pretend to eat it. So you're not eating it, you're pretending to. It's the same thing with Sasquatch. Consider the possibility that they're more than just a dumb ape, and they are by miles. You don't have to believe it. Nobody has to know. You just consider it. And if you still say, nah, 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 okay, that's good. Everybody has their opinion. There's nothing right or wrong. But if you attack people and go after them and say, that's just bull crap, that can't happen, that doesn't exist. Why do you say that? Well, it just can't. It can't be. Well, yeah. Well, you go to school for the first 18 to 22 years of your life. You know what? You're told how to see and view the world. Period. End of conversation. You're told how to see. If you see something you don't believe, well, it probably doesn't exist. You're seeing something else. You're told that the church tells you, the government tells you, your peers tell you, your schools tell you. It's in all the books. The teachers just hand you books and you read it, and they have no control over the agenda, and you're just told. So if you see something, UFO, Sasquatch, Dogman, ghost, well, that can't be. That doesn't. No, that the Bible tells me that doesn't exist, or the government says that doesn't exist. Well, so they don't exist. So that's our conundrum. Is getting people over the hump. Say, well, I'm really seeing this stuff, and I'm not crazy. Well, that's what I told myself about 15 years ago. I'm seeing and hearing this stuff, and I'm not crazy. The first expedition I led for BFRO, one of our group, we broke into two groups, and we went to this area that is now my research area. And we were standing there waiting, and they were going to make this big circle, about a mile, not big, but a circle, to come around this other road and come back and join us. Well, they got lost. They were down in a holler like we were, and a radio was bad. And so we just stood there in the dark waiting for them to come. And I was scanning with my thermal camera. I wasn't recording. I was saving my batteries. I'll never do that again. And I was scanning, looking for the heat signature to see if they were finally getting back, because the radio was just cutting in and out. We couldn't tell if they were hearing us or not, And so I finally get this heat signature coming through the woods. I'm going, oh, thank God they're here. We found them, guys. Come on, here we go. Okay, they're okay. Well, it wasn't them. It was a Sasquatch. I'm trained on this area, and I watch it, and it comes around the bend. And of course, we're all sitting there in silence. It doesn't know we're there. And it took one step. The second step it took, and I'm looking at the heat signature, it just poof, it just vanished. It just was gone. It was like a giant flash bulb went off in my eyes. I couldn't hardly see. It was like that, flash bulb going off. You're seeing spots, and I was going, good God. Well, the people I was with, other than the expedition goers, I had about 15 to 20 people. They were all ignorant, hateful, ape only. The guys that brought me up, and I couldn't say anything because I didn't want to let it out right there, because they would have just attacked me, because they were hateful and mean about it. I mean, anybody that believed anything other than it's a dumb ape, no, you're full of crap. You're just making stuff up. They don't exist that way. Period. End of conversation. So I didn't say anything until the next morning. I got a couple of guys that believed me and knew what I saw, and we went back and recreated it. So the being was about 75 feet away from me. He's about 8 feet tall, and you could see a depression where it had stepped, but no print because it was all vegetation. But my point is, I'm at a fork in the road where I've got these ape only crowd bringing me into the BFRO, which I greatly appreciate, but their ignorance and hatefulness about the whole thing on top of it was just putrid to me. And so I went left and they went right, and I didn't look back and that's what gave me the idea that I could just talk to these witnesses and say, just now tell me if you got something else. You can tell when you start talking to people. I've talked to hundreds of people, and so you get a knack for like, okay, you're sitting on something. You're saying something, but you're not saying a whole lot more. And so then they start talking to you, and that's where my 4 books came from. Was all these reports that people were seeing and having interactions with these creatures on a weekly, daily, monthly, yearly, generations. Depending on how long it's been. Some of the people in my books are only had interactions with the Sasquatch for a year. Some of them had interactions with them for 20 years, several generations of the same family.
Wow. That's amazing.
It just gets passed on, like grandma and grandpa's house. We're going to grandma and grandpa's house. Well, they see the big hairy man. They see the Sasquatch. Oh, really? Where are they? They're kids. They don't know to be afraid. And so they grow up knowing that they're out there. And then as they grow and mature, they eventually start getting involved in some of the sightings and interactions. And then when grandma and grandpa go off to the nursing home, well, they take over where they left off and have continual interactions.
So that's how somebody in the chat earlier had asked, how do you habituate a Bigfoot? I think. Cat Chaser, thank you for that super sticker. Thank you for that.
They're habituating each other.
Yeah.
The Sasquatch were there before we were.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, that's their property, as far as they know. Of course, they don't know anything about titles and paper and banking and all that crap. So no, we own that. We can prove it. But they were there long before we were, and they will be there long after whatever family is there is gone. They were here long on the planet before we were. And so it is interesting concept that, but who's habituating who, really, if you think about it?
That's a good point. Well, but you have talked to people, to families, them personally, who have had generations of contact with the same Sasquatch families. Now, I want to backtrack with one question, because it's really fascinating that you saw that in your thermal camera. Now, when you saw that 8-foot tall Sasquatch come around that bend and it poof disappeared, do you think that it saw like your IR light or some kind of light, or it detected you guys in the environment, and that's why it disappeared?
It saw us as soon as it came around, because we're all like 6 or 7 guys sitting. There may have been a woman there, I can't remember, but we're all just kind of sitting around in the dark, being quiet, radios off except for mine, so we could find our lost people, because we're kind of concerned. But no, I think that it saw us as soon as it came around the corner, because I'm sure I went, or somebody, said something, was doing. I mean, you're being quiet, but it's not that you're not creaking, snapping twigs, or when you get up to walk or go take a leak or whatever. So, but it didn't realize we were there, and it suddenly did, and that's how fast it was. Just like lights off.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I want to talk about the generations of the Sasquatch and the pictures that you have. Like we talked about this in Reno. We had talked about the greenhouse. I think it's a greenhouse that somebody had in their backyard, I think. Mm-hmm. And there was the face print and the handprints from the moisture inside that plastic or whatever that building is made out of. Can we talk about that for a little bit? Because that's a really cool story.
Yeah, you got that picture, don't you? I pull it up.
I do. I do. And after that, I do want to talk about the Bigfoot burial sites. And I know Trey's in here mentioning something about, there it is. Let me take this comment down and we'll pull it up.
Yeah,
Here.
pull it up. You got a better version of it. But
Here we go. Is
yeah,
that it? That's it.
That's
okay.
it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to a 6.5 foot tall Sasquatch that posed unwillingly for this photo. No, I'm
It
kidding.
ran into the wall.
No. Now, what this is, this family, I've been to their property twice. They're very, very good people, God-fearing, religious, and straight. I've known several generations of this family. From one of the first reports I ever had published to BFRO was Tommy. I won't use his last name. He was a substitute minister. He'd been a priest and a minister, small rural churches. And so that's all he did was substitute. If a church lost a pastor, he would go substitute till they found a permanent one. So that was what he did in his latter years in life. So this family are relatives of his. So they grow vegetables to sell in farmers markets. They grow all their own food and to feed their family. So they have these big Quonset huts, the big round, let's see here. I think I've got a picture just so anybody knows what we're looking at here. Yeah. So that's how they grow their vegetables. You can put that picture back up if you want.
Okay,
so anyway, so they've had theft from their gardening area before, and that was neighbors, and so they're aware of it. They have seen the Sasquatch on and off for a couple of years at this property. Make it 3 or 4 now because I haven't been out there in about a year. But they have these 2 big, Quonset huts is what I call them. It's what the military uses for the bivouacs. They get the really heavy duty but pliable plastic and they drape it over these metal bars, and that's how they grow their food. Now in the winter, they have propane heaters between these buildings they make, and they have a pipe going into one and a pipe going into the other. And so to keep the food from freezing as it's growing in the winter, they're heated. And so all this condensation builds up inside the greenhouse. So what they were doing, and unbeknownst to him, I have like 7 or 8 other photos like this, but this is by far the best one. You can see the hair follicles. You can see the lips, the chin. It looks like it's wearing sunglasses. You can see the hair roots growing as it's swept back. It was pressing its face up to the plastic to see if there's anybody coming so he can get out of there and not get caught. So one night he's in bed 11:30. The motion light goes on. He's going, okay, I'm going to find out who's going in there. If it's my neighbors, I'm going to, he was going to be, it didn't occur that it was Sasquatch taking their food. So he comes out the door. All he has on his phone, and he's got his light for his flashlight. He hears screaming and howling coming out of the woods on one side. As he gets about halfway there, he hears screaming and howling coming from the woods on the other side, back behind this hut. When he gets to the hut, he hears screaming coming from inside. This juvenile Sasquatch is caught in there. And when he opens the door and walks in, the Sasquatch runs right by him. It brushes up against him. They could have kissed. They touched.
Wow.
And this kid's like 21, and he's kind of running the growing operation for the family. And so, but he said, I could have kissed it. I mean, we came that close. I had to turn sideways so he didn't bowl me over. And, I'll show you the other photo of the Quonset hut now. No, that's not.
Okay. Oh yeah, I don't have that one.
Well, this is the door. And if you see up close, you
Mhm.
see the handprint. This is my witness. That handprint is 11 and a half inches from the base of the palm to the tip of the middle finger. And that's his hand up there for comparison.
Wow.
And his hand is on the outside. That door is where the Sasquatch ran out and brushed up against the witness.
Wow.
And, you know,
That's pretty
and they
cool.
see them there. They eat their fill. And what they did, they said, "What do we do?" I said, "You tell them." As I've told many witnesses, you can talk to them, and they will stop activity that you do not want to put up with. Stop taking our food, stop eating our food, stop coming up, peeping in our windows at night. You're scaring my family, my kids, uh, that kind of stuff. And so the thievery stopped. You said, you can take this much and that's it. And so several times they have found areas in the Quonset hut or in the greenhouse, I'll call it the greenhouse, where they've laid down and taken a nap after they've eaten. Their favorite foods right now are eggplants and the turnip tops, the leafy greens on turnips. The foods they were eating before were strawberries and turnip greens. And so now they've changed to the eggplant because they like stuff they can't get, the human foods they can't get. So you don't find eggplant growing wild, so they love the eggplants.
It's exotic, right? It's exotic vegetables for them, I guess.
Oh, see, these people here, Phoebus, my son and his wife just built their first large coop house in Alaska. See, that's what they
Mhm.
do. It's really cheap, and you can buy that plastic for, 20, $30 for a big roll. And you take it rolls, but you can do those huts real quick and easy. So, but this was because I have background with the uncle and the grandfather and know them. They instantly were telling me things. I didn't have to work into it because they weren't calling in a BFRO report. They were just like, Carter, you remember Uncle Tommy? He said, yeah, 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 I know Tommy. I know Tommy. He just passed away, by the way. Really good human, really good human. Uh, but he had two Class A's. They were magnets, this whole family. Because when I went down there the first time when this stuff happened, I went there and there was 9 people there, 3 different family groups from this one family name. And they start pulling out flip phones and all these phones. Look at these pictures I got. They all had pictures and recordings, and it's like, oh, I just hit the jackpot. I mean, these people are uh, just sharing outright, and they're carrying the stuff around with them in their pockets. They all are having experiences, and they've all taken. Some of them are blob squatches, and obviously, they see them, but by the time you take a picture, they turn to mush. You know how it is. But anyway, it was awesome, and I brought a bunch of books, and so I was passing out books, and they're handing me phones. I was looking at I was looking at all these photos, and some of them were really good, like as good as the one I just showed you, but uh, they all have them, and they're all sharing freely right off the bat because they knew to trust me because of their uncle and
Wow.
to some the grandfather. And
Wow.
so I that just falls in my lap. But it's not because I'm lucky. I've done the work. I've nourished the relationships, and I've been doing it for a while. And I know people, you can tell when you're talking to somebody, they got something else to say, and they're just not saying it yet. I say, go ahead, talk to me. I mean, tell me. And they tell me. And they're so relieved. Some of them are in tears. Some of these people have been sitting on this stuff for 10, 20 years. They couldn't talk to even their spouses are making fun of them. Don't you talk about that stuff around here. I mean, that's just stupid. So they just don't say anything. And suddenly they have the freedom to talk. And they're so relieved. And all the names in my books are fictitious names, fictitious locations. Who it is and where it is not important. What's important is the event. And that's why people talk to me, because I don't put their names in there. They don't want anything. They just want to talk. They want to get it off their chest, talk to somebody who believes them and understands them and can maybe explain some things. That's all they want. And they're so relieved. What do they get out of it? They get a book. They get a free book.
Well, and you're fun to talk to, and you're easy to talk to.
Yeah.
I hit it off with you right after I met you. Okay. And
Yeah.
I knew we were going to be buddies. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and it's important, that's how I talk to people as well that have experiences. Okay.
You know how it
and
is.
most
You
of the
just
time people just want to talk.
and respect them. That's all you got to do, is talk to them, respect them. Don't make fun. I mean, they've had enough fun poked at them. And the people that you love the most are the ones that will tear into you the most. And they think they're just having fun with you. And they're not, because it means, it's like seeing a UFO or seeing a ghost or seeing your dead grandmother come to you in a dream. You know it's real. You know it's her. And you can't share that with anybody. Because you saw a Sasquatch or saw a ghost or saw a UFO. You can't share that. So it's locked in. You know how it is when you sit on something that's emotionally tumultuous, I mean, yeah, a Bigfoot, Trey Madness, Bigfoot is a friend for life. Yeah, as long as they don't borrow money, they can keep coming around.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, guys. I have a question for you. Okay, so with all of these habituation sites and the families that have told you their encounters, have you seen more patterns than just the food that they like? I mean, are there certain patterns to these families and these habitats?
Oh yeah. There's all kinds of stuff. And this one has to do with a burial.
Burial. I wanted to talk about that. Okay.
Yeah, the family, I think they're in this first book, and they're actually in the second one too. And I think that I've got some of them in the very last, my most recent book. But sweet, wonderful people. And this is a generational family where they've been living on this property for 20 years. So they've got daughter, grandkids, and them that have experienced them. So 12, 15 years ago, they had moved her mother, the wife, husband-wife team. They had moved her mother and her trailer, single wide, onto their property so they could take care of her and watch her, but she could still have her autonomy. This is a really cool story. And so she had this old dog, really fat old dog, couldn't hardly move around. It was half blind, and they had a pack of wild dogs that would come around every now and then. Now they got 200 acres and it's all fenced, but they can get through fencing and stuff like that. The pack of dogs, and in rural areas, a pack of dogs is not that unusual. They're sometimes vicious. They will attack and kill pets, may try to attack humans. I mean, they're just, they're scavengers, they're eating whatever they can. So there was a pack of dogs that come around every now and then. Well, one night grandma was taking the dog out for a walk, and it was surrounded by this pack of dogs, and she didn't call her daughter or son-in-law to help her or anything. She just, knew that, she's been through it before. So she's out there with the dogs, and the pack of dogs are circling, and they're coming after the dog. They're coming after her dog. It's on a leash. All of a sudden, out of nowhere comes this blood-curdling scream, and you know what it is. And the entire forest stops, and these dogs freeze. They're like, nope, we're done. The dogs run off because the Sasquatch saved grandma's dog, because they protect grandma. They love this family. They're living on this family property. And so the dogs run away, and they never come back, ever.
Man, that's cool.
Period. Oh, it gets better. So
okay.
A couple of years later, the dog dies. And so they go and they buy some carnations. They buy some potted carnations. They bought like, I don't know, 12 or 15. And they buried the dog in the front yard of her trailer and, you know, had rocks all around it. And they put the flowers all around it, you know, evenly spaced. They dug holes. They're nice carnations, not just, you know, a nice expensive one, you know, a quart size. It was a nice one. They're already full grown and everything. So they have the little ceremony and they get the flowers all buried and all that stuff. So next morning they come out, all the flowers are taken out of the holes, laid down to each hole that it was in, and not torn up. They're laid by the hole. So they're all still there, fanned out. And she asked me, she said, who would have done that? I said, that's the Sasquatch. They don't like you when you mark your graves because they don't mark their graves either. Oh, really? Yeah. They don't want you because someone will come and dig up your dog in their mind. They don't want that to happen. They want that dog to be at peace. So they took the flowers out. And so it was just bizarre because that was before they knew to take a picture or something like that. I wish they had, but you know, you wouldn't have seen anything other than flowers pulled out of the ground. But they were so neatly laid down. They weren't damaged or destroyed. They took the flowers out and they put them in flower bed by their house. And they just left the dog with a couple of stones around the burial, and that was it. And that was their introduction to how they do not mark their graves. You know, and I have other habituation witnesses that have been told that. Now, the family I just showed you in this book with the greenhouse, they had, when I was out there, the family, I told them, I said, you know, they had a cat out there that had all these kittens, and I was out there one day. Well, the cat died shortly after I left. And I said, you can bury your cat. I mean, do whatever you want to do, but I guarantee you, if you make the grave too attractive, they may come by and remove some of what you put out there. And they didn't really understand, or maybe, I don't even know if they really believe that. You know, this coming from the person who had a Sasquatch run by and brush his chest. I find that hard to believe. Well, the next morning that the cat died, they put a little cross on there, and there were some stones on there, and somebody put turnip green tops on the cross.
Oh my God, they love turnip green tops.
Yeah,
Bigfoot.
well, that's their favorite food, and that was a sign of reverence and respect. I'm going to put these turnip green tops, which I would much rather eat than give to your dead kitty. But
Wow.
here we go. So what do you do with that? You know, what do you ascertain from that behavior? They don't they don't mark their graves for a reason because they know we want a body. You know, and so they may go to other planes, other dimensions, and pass on. Or like many people have told me that long gone relatives have buried Sasquatch moving 1 or 2 ton rocks, boulders over the grave. No one's going to find it or see it or know it's there other than the Sasquatch brethren. You know, if they die on this plane, and there's a lot of opinions as to that, and I can't argue or debate it one way or the other because, you know, they may go other places. Many people think they go into the trees to pass, you know. But my point is, they don't want people digging up, because that's their logic. We don't want people digging up graves because we bury our dead and you bury your dead. And we're afraid somebody's going to come up and unbury your dog and eat your dog or do whatever they're going to do to it. So that's why we don't mark our graves.
I think this answers some questions though, because this is a topic that not a lot of people talk about.
Yeah.
And I get asked this a lot. And the first time I met some Bigfoot field researchers, that was the first thing I asked was, where's the body? Where are
Yeah.
their bodies? And
Well, the
so,
government has them. I guarantee
yeah,
you the government has them and knows quite well who and what they are. But that's a whole other topic, you know.
yeah. But
But,
you
you know,
wonder about if they have like a graveyard or if they go into another dimension or something. I mean, I know and it's not something to laugh about because I say that sometimes. I'm like, well, maybe they go into another dimension or they hit one of these natural portals and go somewhere else to pass away. I don't know. You know,
yeah,
we're just sleeping during the day. You
there
know?
was a story out about 6 months ago, and there was a video, and it's disappeared real quick
Mhm.
of a guy who went into a forest. I think it was in California, the sequoias, and he has a deal with the government or with the conservation area, whatever, to go on and you can take any sequoia trees that fall. You cannot cut them down. If they die a natural death and they fall, crumble, whatever, you're free to cut them up and get them out. That saves us from us having to do it. Well, he claimed to have found a Sasquatch body inside a tree, a sequoia tree, inside the hollow of a tree. And when he cut the tree open, all he found was a leathery skinned, wrapped skeleton inside this tree. Can't tell you if that's true or not. It sure adds fuel to the notion that perhaps they do go into the trees and pass on. Maybe they go to another dimension or portal through the trees, and maybe this one just got caught there. Pure speculation. Trey Madness, I found they make totems out of skulls of trees. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, we don't know, so you just can't say no
Right.
because you just don't believe that it's possible, or you don't know that it's not possible. You know, you're taught that it's not, which is why you say that,
Yeah.
but we don't know. So you can't discount it as far fetched as it is. You can't just go, nah, that can't be. How do you know?
Oh my God. We talk about trees being portals pretty often.
Yeah.
Trees as portals. And if it did get caught inside that tree, if the tree was a portal and if it was, maybe it was on the brink of passing away and it did get caught, maybe it couldn't get its vibration up, or I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because how would it get inside a tree?
Yeah.
That doesn't
Well,
make a lot of sense.
they're big trees. Some of them are 25 feet around. So you can obviously you could handle a massive creature of that size if you got
Okay.
into
They are huge.
full
That's right.
grown
Okay.
sequoia. Your buddy David there.
That's David.
You had a van follow you around yet? Usually tan with blackout windows and no marking. No, but my excuse me, my Squatch partner here in Kansas City had two men in black go to his door after we had done a town hall meeting for BFRO. We'd done one here in Independence. And he answered the door, and there's two guys standing there with the traditional black suits, white shirts, black ties, looking kind of stiff and rigid, and just want to know, you should be careful when you go around Sasquatch because they're dangerous creatures. They could hurt you. You go, what is this regarding? What are you here for? Well, we just, we know you just had a gathering, and we just want to let you know you really should not mess with them because they are dangerous. They can hurt you. You could be killed. So he's like, yeah, whatever. What are you doing here? So his cell phone rang. So he went to go to the kitchen and get it and went back, and they were gone. No trace of them. No van, no car, no nothing. I mean, he didn't see a car there when he answered his door. Now, Independence, they have what was called the Mormons, the Church of Latter-day Saints. They have what they call here the Jesus slide. It's the Mormons Church of Latter-day Saints, whatever it is. It's a spiral. It looks like a conch shell on its bottom. And this is where Jesus is going to come back and take all the chosen people out of Independence, Missouri. So they have guys in black slacks, white shirts, and black ties going around preaching.
Yeah.
These guys had jackets on and no material. It was just a weird thing. And they just started talking to my partner, Brian, out of nowhere about, you need to be careful about these Sasquatch. If you're going to be doing what you're doing with them, you need to be careful because they can hurt you. And it's like, what? He had no frame of reference for why that happened until the Men in Black thing came up. Then it was like, oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, I guess he could read between the lines. They did say that the Sasquatch will unalive you, as we say on YouTube.
Yeah. But that's okay. Yeah, but how would they know he would be interested in hearing that advice?
And why would he care? That's what it sounds a little sus, as my son says. It's suspicious. Okay.
Yeah. And my partner is true and is honest. He's not into any of that. It spooked him, is why he called me. He says, "Has anybody contacted you?" Because he thought for sure if they contacted him, they would have contacted me. Because I was the lead researcher and everything. But yeah, I said, no, I hadn't heard from him. But it was odd. It was odd.
Did it deter him from doing the research after that?
No.
Good.
No. Good. No, it didn't deter me either. It tells you you're on the right track.
Exactly.
That's what it tells me.
That's the way I look at it. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. War Criminal 7, thank you for that super sticker. Thanks for the work you put in. Thank you for the work you put in, because I know you're a boots on the ground field researcher too. Mm-hmm. War Criminal 7 does some research up in Kentucky, okay, from what I've heard. And so thank you for that. I appreciate it. There's a lot of boots on the ground field researchers in here. And we actually have an ED tester, and we got Eric in here. He lives in Missouri and has a lot of property at his house, and is into Bigfoot as well, and has had some encounters, I think. So maybe you guys should link up sometime. He may not be too far from you, Carter. I don't know.
Reach out. My email is sqexplorer@gmail.com. SQ Explorer. Nice. Creative, huh?
Oh yeah, I like that.
It took me all 12 seconds to come up with that one. If you're interested, we could sit there and chat and trade stories. You never know,
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, there's a lot going on in Missouri. Okay, a lot of Dogman reports we're picking up. Okay, werewolves and Dogman too. Eric had he came on my show a little while ago and had taken a report of a werewolf in Missouri recently. This was recent, in the past couple months. Mm-hmm.
There have been things that I have seen that I just attributed to Sasquatch. Big, gigantic humanoid shapes moving along a ridge line, backlit by the moon at night. You see several things. Well, you don't know. They look like the prototypical Sasquatch, but it could be a Dogman, could be a werewolf, it could be whatever.
Okay, Eric says that he lives north of Springfield, is what he said.
I'm in Liberty, so you're not that far.
Okay, well he's the person who took that werewolf report somebody had given. So yeah,
we could talk. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, I've got so many pictures and stories. This is that cross with the turnip green.
The cemetery or the gravesite.
The cat, yeah.
What about the picture with the fingers? Can you tell us a little more about the picture with the fingers? That's from a game cam. This right here.
Yep. If you put up the photo on the bottom, you'll see the time date stamp. But you've got your little
let me take the ticker down. Let's take this down. There we go.
Yeah. So excellent shot. It is 3:12 and 40 seconds in the afternoon. Now show the picture of the preacher. The guy on the camp. Yeah. Look at that one. What time is it there? 3:12 and 36 seconds. That hand, that Sasquatch appeared 4 seconds after he tripped the camera.
4 seconds.
Yeah, go back to the preacher. I want to show you something.
Okay.
Now you see the tree that's down horizontally in the background. You see the shadow going across about a little over his ankles at a triangular. You see the shadow on the ground from trees. You see the trees in the background are all standing up nice and straight. And you see this, what looks like a dark thing there. That is actually, they always thought that was another Sasquatch. That is actually an above ground feeder. So what he's doing is going out. They go out about every couple of months. They have 32 cameras on this property. I've been there twice. And they go out and change the batteries and or the SD cards and refresh everything. And so they let it go for another couple of months. They take the SD cards back and watch, see what's on there so they can adjust their hunting areas. So now let's go to the hand. Okay, 4 seconds later, you see the tree in the background. They all look like they're moving, like they're blowing. You see the shadow that is so pronounced on the preacher's photo. It is less pronounced, but still there. You can see the darker area. You can see the darker area. You see.
That's weird. Back. That's distorted. Like, what in the world? I just now noticed that.
The Sasquatch, he never saw it, he never heard it, he never sensed it. I theorize that this Sasquatch materialized out of another portal, another dimension, perhaps. It bumped the camera. It's so close that it's out of focus. And you see the trees in the background that look like they're moving. That's because it bumped the camera, not because there's any wind. There's no wind. The shadow is different because it is blocking some of the sun that came in by virtue of wherever it's standing on top of this camera. But it bumped the camera. That's why it's out of focus. And that's why those trees look like they're moving. They're not moving. You see the horizontal tree that is still on the ground, is still horizontal. It's back behind the fingers. You can't see it. But it bumped that camera, pure and simple. And it came out of nowhere. It may have materialized. We have no other explanation.
Wow. That's an amazing capture right there. Amazing.
It's just bizarre. I've been there twice. Now, the preacher is the town preacher. And the guy that owns the property, they've become good friends. He lets him hunt there to feed his family because isn't it funny how I keep surrounding myself with godly people? It's just weird. But so he is allowed to hunt the property and take whatever he can to feed his family because they don't make much money as a small town preacher. So that's what he is doing in return for getting to take some of the kill. He goes out and helps with the cameras and the batteries and the now when I first put this out in the book, I got nothing but hate mail. That's fake, that's phony, and you hear that when you have something that's significant. Now I have run all the tests I can, and a funny thing that happened was I have a family that lives in the state where this occurred, and a film producer from Florida, Stacy Brown, you know him.
I know Stacy. Oh yeah.
He
hung out with him not so long ago.
Yeah. Well, tell him hi. He called me and said, "We want to talk to this couple, and we want to come out and do a story on their habituation." Now, this is another couple that I've put in a couple of my books, and they've had long-running stuff going on their property. Well, they suddenly got really snippy and were like, well, we want money. We want something for our trouble. We want some, clothes, new camping gear, new hunting gear. We want, no, we want, gimme, gimme, gimme. Well, no, that's not how this works. They want to come out and film your habituation. They're not going to, you should be flattered that they're coming out. There's no money in the budget to pay you. If you want $100 or something, maybe, but we're not going to give you thousands of dollars worth of camping gear and hunting gear. And so I called him back. I said, Stacy, they're being ridiculous. I don't know what's gotten into them, but they had another researcher call them and also want to do a story, and he decided he was going to pay them. Carrie Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I said, they're a no-go, but I just got this photo, like literally a couple of days before. I said, I've got a story that tops this, and it's awesome. I got a photo. I sent it to him. I said, you send it to your production people and see if it's real, because I've done what I can do. I'm just a pedestrian as far as photography goes, but I can tell if something's been tampered with, and the JPEG and the dots, DPI and all that. You can tell something's been tampered with, but past that, I'm not a lot of help. So they call back in a couple of hours. We're on our way. This is good photo. Good photo. It has not been altered. It's, it is what I thought it was, and is what I said it was, and is what they said it was. The fingers look a little weird, but even Hydrosec says, that's, I've seen that somewhere. I've seen that type of finger. Anyway, so they came out and we taped a show. It was either for Hulu or something, and there was creative differences with the producer that I was working with and the producer that New York sent. This is either for Hulu or Hubzu, or I can't remember, but it'll never see the light of day. We taped it, but it'll never see it. The egos were just flying everywhere. But
egos in the cryptid community.
Shocking.
Production, please.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. But so I shared this and I got hate mail, but after the hate mail went away, everyone's going, that is freaking awesome. And it is a good, and that's how people share stuff with me, because they trust me, and they trust that it's not going to be used for nefarious purposes, and they're not going to be identified by location or name. And so that's good stuff, and so that's where just being truthful and honest with people gets you, and so I don't do reports for BFRO anymore for obvious reasons, but I'm still a member. I just won't do it, but and that's, I got stories coming out my rear end. I know you wanted to talk about the abduction thing. We can talk about that if you want. We got half hour?
I mean, we've got as long as we need tonight if you want to talk about it. And somebody was asking who MM is. Now Matt was saying, I'm not Matt. David was saying, I'm not going to say his name, but he's related to BFRO. Okay.
Yeah.
Might be the head of BFRO. And so just between us, I had heard, just between me and you, Carter.
Yeah, and thousands that are watching this.
Just us. Okay. Well, I had heard that some people had made reports to the BFRO about Bigfoots on their property, and the next thing they know, they have black helicopters flying over their house.
I've heard a few of those.
Okay. We're going to leave that there.
Yeah, I've heard a few of those, and I don't doubt them. Now, I don't doubt that they would come, whether it's BFRO or not. If you've got the right report that has a lot of things in it, Sasquatch, UFOs, Orbs, whatever, I can see black helicopters coming out. I mean, because you're getting too close to the truth.
That's right.
And the government knows they exist. They know they exist.
Yes.
Depending on who you talk to, I know there are crews and posses put together to eradicate or move them. And the people that tell me this are in the know, and they would know. I've had people tell me, forestry workers in this second book, this one here with half of that book is about a guy in Canada, and long story short, his tree planting crew saw hundreds and hundreds of footprints in a very small area. They pulled up in a van, and the Sasquatch must have been there 5 seconds before they walked onto the area where they were supposed to start planting. They saw Sasquatch. They were scared out of their mind. Their hair was standing on end like this. Static electricity. It stood like that for an hour.
Really?
And so basically they were told, you say a word, you'll never work in this area again. This is up in British Columbia, Canada. You'll never work up here again. It's really hard to find work. And I cannot tell you what may or may not happen. You just do not want to talk about what you just saw. Period. End of conversation.
Uh-oh.
That happens. I've heard that many, many times from forestry workers here in Missouri, Washington State, other states. They're told the same thing. And whether you believe on eradication posses and what have you, I don't doubt it, because we put value on that almighty lumber and paper, and some forest being is not going to stand in the way of the lumber and paper mills making their billions of dollars.
No, I think that Patty from the Patterson-Gimlin film is a good example of that, and I'm going to leave that there. I did meet M.K. Davis in person. I saw his presentation he gave. It was actually the last time when I saw Stacy Brown a couple months ago in the East Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall. Okay, and he gave his presentation, and the lumber companies. Okay, you hear about a lot of Bigfoot sightings on lumbering roads, and they're going into their habitats and destroying their homes, okay, and wiping out all the trees and all their entire habitats. Yeah. And so they're there. Of course, they're going to screw with all the heavy equipment. They're going to try to get around there.
They've got children. They've got their babies that they're eradicating. I had a report, and I didn't put it in one of my books because I told them I wouldn't. But Sasquatch were tearing down concrete columns that they were putting up, the forestry and lumber companies were putting up in the forest so they could get further back into the forest. And they were tearing down at a specific stage of construction so they couldn't put the bridges up, because the lumber companies had to take a 25-mile detour to get to where they wanted to go. So they were cutting through people's property. Well, they were defacing the property and tearing up trees and undergrowth. And, it's my property. Don't be running your road graders and equipment over here. I mean, And so they decided to build a bridge and to avoid having to use people's property. And so mysteriously, the footings for the bridges and the columns would be knocked down overnight.
Really? Dang.
So this happened many, many times to the point where they just gave up.
Well, the Bigfoot won. There is power in numbers, I guess. Yeah. But not all Bigfoots are that lucky, because there are a lot that probably do get eradicated. I mean, there was an instance where some of the guys on my team were out in a national forest doing some Bigfooting. I think it might have been in North Carolina. I'm not sure. I think it was in North Carolina. And they were, I guess they said that like a couple of guys came walking out of the woods, and one of the guys had on like SWAT team gear, basically like their armor plates, and I mean they looked like they had guns and everything. And when they asked them, my guys asked, well, what were y'all doing there? What were they doing there? They said, we're doing the same thing y'all are doing. and they knew they were Bigfoot researchers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were ready to. I mean, they were fully weaponized, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's not for protection. That's for
mm-mm,
offensive behavior, not defensive. You know.
probably, well, in their case, probably so. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of
They're just,
sad.
they're just an animal that stands in the way of monetary gain.
Hmm.
That's all they are to them. And you know, the other thing for the apers, why do you think the government, and I know they know about them, and most everybody who's into this at all knows they have to know. Why do you think they don't want to tell you that we've discovered an undiscovered ape in North America? It's just a gorilla, just another part of the gorilla family tree. Why do you think they want to keep that a secret?
Same reason they don't tell us they're Black Panthers in Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's something else. They have another skill set. They're so far advanced of us. It's just like the UFO thing. The UFO, they've been lying to us for what, 80 some odd years. Let's call it 100 years. They've been lying to us for a long time about UFOs. They don't exist. You're crazy. There's no such thing. There's no life elsewhere. Blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, what, 3-4 years ago, they give us the Tic Tac videos. They throw us a bone. Well, we don't know what these are. They weren't built here. We don't have the skill to do that. We don't know who it is. It wasn't done here. It's done off planet. We'll get back to you. Well, have we heard anything since? No. It's the same with Sasquatch. Until they can monetize it, politicize it, and militarize it, whatever's there, it's just like the UFOs and the deal that Eisenhower and Truman made with the ETs. You know, you can have our people, you can take them, do your DNA experiments and do whatever, and we need your technology. We want some technology. We'll trade you. So that's what happened. Very Cliff Notes version. It's the same with Sasquatch. They know they exist. They go out of their way to eradicate them or displace them or do whatever they can. And so one day, when they can't lie to us anymore, it'll be just like the UFOs. They'll throw us a bone, and then it'll go away. Yeah.
They throw us a bone like those alien bodies out of Mexico. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was weird.
That's where, you know, this book came in. I'm going to segue.
You rich. Okay. Let's pull that one up. Here we go. I've got it up.
Yeah. So I and my wife and another couple went one day. We decided, you know, I always thought I had a past life. So I decided, and this was in 2003, let's call a hypnotist and get regressed and see if we had past lives. We all thought, oh, that sounds a pretty good idea. And so at this time, there were still Yellow Pages, 2003. It doesn't sound like it. But anyway, I found a researcher who I've actually become good friends with. She was a hypnotist. And we went out there to get hypnotically regressed, about 25 miles from where we live. So we went to her barn studio. She has a studio out in the country. It's a barn. It's got a maze. You can walk and chill out and relax and meditate, and then you go in and do your regression. So my wife went under. She could not go under. Some people have control issues, and she's just one that can't be hypnotized. Then the husband of my good friend, Nancy, she was married to my comedy partner, and he passed away. So, and she remarried. And so Steve went under, and he was in the Times of Atlantis. He was part of the ruling class. He was wearing these really fine robes, and he was describing all the finery and all the people he had, his slaves and people that were working for him and on him with his clothing and everything. So anyway, Nancy went under, and she was a medicine man. She had 2 lives that she found, medicine man, and she was helping her tribe die. There was some disease that her native tribe, this was in the 1800s, had, and they were all dying. And she was helping them just pass away as pain-free as possible. The other life she had was she was a fisherman in the 1920s in a fishing boat up in the North Atlantic, those horrible, horrible ocean seas. She was describing, having to lash herself to the deck and so she wouldn't be washed over. She was describing her yellow slicker and her hat and all that stuff. So she was, it was really cool. Listen to this. We were all four watching each other. We're in this big room. We're all watching each other in this barn, this big room in a barn. And we're recording everything. So everything's recorded. They take me under, I go last. And it takes a while. And I'm fighting it. And then I start talking like 8, 9, 10-year-old me in a little kid voice, and I'm sobbing uncontrollably. Get off of me, get away, just stop. What are you doing to my friend? I'm just freaking out, and everyone's freaking out. And I've got all this on tape. I've got all my tapes, including those with Dolores, in my closet. And so I've described this story I had told my whole life. What this probably is going to be, Jessica, is a really good segue to another show. But anyway, so I start describing what happened in this car. Me and my buddy were racing our bikes in Dallas, Texas, 1958 or 9. I'm 7 or 8, 9 years old. He's the same age. We race our bikes. And we're right in front of my house, and we run a stop sign. We're just young kids. We're stupid. We don't know. We're just hauling ass on our bikes, having a great time, in the summer. And this car goes right by us, and you can feel the wind. It's like, I don't know how it didn't hit us. Oh, my mother's going to be so ticked off. It was right in front of the house. I know she saw us because she's at home. She doesn't work, but she didn't see us. Well, it was a blue Buick. It was a blue Buick, just like a blue Buick my grandparents had in their garage in Houston, Texas. Except it wasn't a blue Buick. That was the screen memory for the spacecraft that swooped down and took us. You know what screen memories are?
Oh, yeah. I know. We do.
A screen memory is what they give you to forget what you saw and immediately identify it as something else. Like if we see a gray alien, you're usually shown an owl or a deer or a cow, some animal that you're familiar with that has big eyes. It just takes a second for your mind to get switched on and off from remembering what actually happened to say, oh yeah, that was the deer. That was weird. That was weird seeing those deer out front of my house. That was weird. But anyway, I guess UFOs don't exist, so they must be deer. No, there's the government lying again. Anyway, so I come to find out, in all my life, I told this story of stupid things that you do as a kid that should have got you killed but didn't. It's a great way to make conversation in a strange setting. I was in real estate sales, and and just you go into a bar, you're talking and making friends with people, and you just start telling stories. Well, yeah, I did that once. I stuck my finger in a light socket, or so it's a story I always told. We ran a stop sign, we almost got run over by a blue Buick. Well, come to find out, that was the screen memory for the UFO, and I did eventually see the UFO. But I was taken under, let me get this right, 7 times. I have 7 tapes, cassette tapes, twice by Dolores Cannon. If those of you who do not know who Dolores Cannon is, she's the John Mack of regression hypnosis. And who was the other artist? The other guy from New York. He just died not too long ago. He was a painter. I can't remember his name. It escapes me. But she is, if you look her up, Dolores Cannon, she is the queen of regression hypnosis. I've got half a dozen of her books. She died in 2014. I went under with her 2005, 2010. She died 4 years later. Her daughters still run her foundation here in Arkansas. here in Arkansas, down in Arkansas. But all the women that took me under were her students. And so I have tapes of all of it. And what did I do with it? The last tape, I put it in my closet up there with my DNA kit and microscope. And I said, I'll get to it someday. 20 years later, it was still sitting here.
But you got it.
Well,
right?
I'm doing a show with Travis Walton. You know, Travis Walton, Fire in the Sky.
Oh, yeah.
His booth was next to mine.
Wow.
And so we're sitting there talking one day, and I tell him about my abduction. I hadn't written the book or done anything. I hadn't told anybody about it because, I'm not sure. I'm sure I was afraid of what was on there, but I can't think of any other reason. But so I'm talking to Travis, and he's going, why don't you tell anybody about this? What are you afraid of? You chase an unknown ape through the woods at 3 o'clock in the morning. What the hell are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? What do you think's on these tapes that's going to scare you any worse than that? You're chasing Sasquatch around in the forests of America. I mean, what are you afraid of? I go, that's a good question. I don't know. I really, my ego won't allow me to think I'm afraid, but maybe I am. Maybe I don't want it to interrupt my Sasquatch stuff. I don't know. And so he was the one who made me. I went and got my last regression in October of last year. She's a 3rd tier person, and each regressionist verified the previous regressionist results and found new results. And then I go to another one, and she would verify those findings, and then she'd pull out new stuff, and it kept going down the food chain. So I said, I need to go talk to Dolores Cannon because these are all her students. I need to go talk to the boss because not that they weren't doing good, but I needed to go to the teacher. And so I went to her down in her. She had a little gas station studio down in. There's an old convenience store gas station in downtown little town in Arkansas. I don't even remember the name of it. But anyway, great old lady. But she pulled stuff out of my rear end. I had no idea.
Not literally.
And all through the tapes, you can hear me going, am I really saying this stuff? This can't be. Is this coming out of my mouth? Am I really saying this? Of course, when you go under, you are talking to your super subconscious and or the ETs directly. You're talking to them through her. And so, she's telling me, Carter, just shut up, keep going, quit interrupting, just keep going. She would say, it's on the tape, it's hilarious. Just shut up, just keep going, just stop, don't stop, just keep going. You're doing fine, you're doing fine. And all the tapes, I'm going, is this really coming out of my mouth? Because I can't believe what's coming out of my mouth is actually something that happened to me. It's in my head and I didn't know anything about it. It's just bizarre. To me, it's more bizarre than any Sasquatch research I've done because this stuff was ticking away inside of me. I didn't know anything about it until 20 years ago. So for 50 years, I was sitting on something, and the life as I knew as a kid was not the life I remembered. I don't know, no telling how many times I've been taken. I was always taken at least many times with this buddy, Craig, who it turns out he had been taken many times and I was just collateral damage. And then when they took me a couple of times, they ran tests on me to see if I was compatible with breeding. They had me in a cocoon. I was in like an embryo. I was in this big pod and I couldn't get out. And the skin of it was right here, but I could see through it. I could see what they were doing to my buddy Craig in this other room that was behind another screen. And I was going, I want out of here because whatever they're doing to him, I'm next. I want out of here. I was clawing away at this thing, and they were afraid I was going to hurt me. So they took a laser, just like your laser pointer. They cut me out and let me out. It was just bizarre. And they called the breeding program meshing or melding. That was the ET's word for hybridization. And they were testing me. And they called, I can't remember what they called, meshing and melding was the term for hybridization. And they wanted to make sure that our germs were compatible, which is why they were running tests on me. And they must have seen something they liked because they kept coming back and kept testing me, you know. And so that's how I found out about that. And, you know, it's much more involved, and my Sasquatch research is mentioned in some of the regressions. But it is just, it was mind-boggling, you know.
Well, it's terrifying too. And now everybody can understand from hearing your encounter, your experience as to why a lot of us are hesitant to get a regression done. I'm hesitant to get regressions done. I've been offered to have regressions done by a couple of trusted people.
I can hook you up with the good people. One thing, don't ever do it online. Do it live.
Live.
Don't want to do it. They need to pick up on your vibes and your body tips, everything. It needs to be done live. Don't do it online. It's easy. It's cheaper. It's a lot better if you're in person.
In person.
Anybody who, and you would not believe, when I wrote the book, I put it out, I heard from 6 people that are in your line of work and my line of work that told me, oh my God, that's bringing back memories of floating out my window as a child, having a baby that I thought I was pregnant, but then I wasn't. And so the fetuses are taken out after 4 months of gestation, because that's what the ETs generally, it's 4 to 5 months, not 9 like us. And then they take them from the mother and they put them in the tanks and they let them mature that way. But they need something we have.
Oh yeah, Carter, there's something that I experienced because I knew there was a real, I'm going to say, danger with the Bigfooting, being out in the woods and then waking up to have ETs in my room at night and things. When I first got married, a while back, we immediately pretty much we decided we were going to have a baby. We wanted to have my son. You know, we didn't know it was going to be my son, but have a child. Yeah. And I purposely quit going into the woods because I was afraid. At the time I had not had ETs in my house, I don't think yet, but I didn't want to be taken into like a program or something. You know, I knew that there was a real threat when it came to that kind of stuff. So I didn't want to chance it.
Yeah, it was bizarre. But
it's weird, right? That I actually took the steps to not go out in the woods because I was trying to have a baby.
There's people, you know.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, but, you know, if I mention, you go, oh, because you probably know everybody. But what I'm saying is you would be shocked to know that, but it's one of their dirty little secrets. You just don't talk about that.
You don't talk about it. I never talk about it.
You know, I didn't want to put I wrote this book because I was just going to leave it to my family so they would know how come I was so weird. But then after I talked to Travis, I said, no, I better put this out. I mean, the reason I hesitated for a little while was because I was truly worried about blowback from the Sasquatch community. Oh, your books are selling a little slow, so now you've been abducted by aliens? Oh, really? Because of all the hate. You know how hateful our chosen endeavor is.
I know better than anybody. Yeah,
everybody wants to be the one. Everybody wants to be somebody. They want to be the one who has the body, has the photo that defines everything. End of conversation. And so that's why there's 2 factions, the ape and the paranormal. And it's just the way it is in the paranormal field. So that would have some reason to do why I sat on it, but I wasn't sure I knew what was going to find. So I didn't know, and I didn't want to deal with what I didn't know. And I just didn't want to take the time because I was getting getting somewhere with what I was doing, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
I can talk about it.
Yeah. A lot of researchers have experienced it. Yeah. It is bizarre. And, and when I was 8, 9, or 10, and I saw the, In Search of show with Leonard Nimoy, and I saw the Sasquatch, I'd already been taken. I had no idea. Yet I was drawn to that unknown creature that doesn't exist because I knew it existed. Yeah, everybody
I think, well, okay, that explains, see, because I used to be super interested in looking for UFOs at night. And I lived out on a farm out in the country, and I would look for UFOs, and I had a hard time sleeping at night. Like, I would always put stuffed animals around the edges of my bed so nothing would grab me at night. I had a fear, and I just thought that was because I was a kid and we lived in the country, and I may have watched a scary movie like Nightmare on Elm Street or something. And but I look back on that and I wonder now, was I being taken?
you should get regressed.
Yeah.
It's really you can't let the cost bother you. It's $300 or $400. If somebody will do it for you online for $200. Don't do it online. But you have to be prepared for what you might find out. And if you have enough screen memories and you've been taken many times or numerous times, you may have to go back and get it done again and again and again, because you can only overcome so many screen memories, because they give you these things, and I'm already discounting what's coming out of my mouth, so it's working. But the problem is, when I was being regressed, the ETs I was speaking to, through Dolores especially, they say, how do you know that? You weren't supposed to remember. They told me that many times.
Really?
And they would say things like, they would never, a couple of times they flat out said, yeah, you're right. But like when I had an implant in my nose and it failed. And so I had these horrific nosebleed. And so they took it out and they replaced it. That came out.
Really?
Yeah. And I remember at the 13 or 14, I had this horrific nosebleed. And, I used to have dreams all the time of these little robots walking down my hall from my parents' bedroom past our bedroom. And there were little gray robots. Okay. They're the grays. I had so many screen memories. And what I know they were doing was going down to my parents and clicking them off, come down and get me.
Oh, man.
Because there was a nightlight in the hall. So their shadows got really long and they looked kind of elongated and distorted because of the shadows. As you get further away, it gets longer and a little weirder looking. Anyway, so, but I saw that many, many, many times. And I just thought, that was just one of those weird dreams I had. Because I still didn't know I'd been taken until 20 years ago. So I had no idea. So all this time I was just like, well, I must have had a bad sandwich or something. Something I'm eating, getting to me. So I'm seeing weird things going down the hall. But those were the small grays. And I was given another, but I won't go into all that because it's a whole show all by itself. But if you think you have, find somebody, and I can point you out, because Dolores has got third-tier regressionists all over the country and all over the world. You can go on her site, dolorescannon.com, and find out where her third-tier regressionists are in your state, or something that's within a couple of 100 miles of you, and find out. But I'd do it in person. You'd be doing a disservice if you don't do it in person.
Carter, I had an experience. One of the last experiences that I had with waking up and there being something like an ET in my room. There was something standing by my bed that had literally the Grim Reaper. Okay, but it was something. I think it had hands like a mantis, like a mantid being, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I remember after I realized what I was looking at, I fell back to sleep. I feel like I got put to sleep. And I had a dream that I was in the Wizard of Oz and I was beating up the Munchkins. And they kept telling me to stop beating up their mayor because they were all going to get in trouble. And so, yeah, that was, I'd never had a dream about being in the Wizard of Oz with Munchkins before.
Screen memory.
That was a screen memory. I have no doubt that was a screen memory.
Yeah. I had so many of them, the screen memories, the things I saw, and things I remember. They came and took me out of my house. They came and took us while we were hunting and fishing. We'd see a craft up on this dike. There's a dam. We call it a dike. It was an earthen dike at this area we used to go, and we would see somebody or something up watching us, and that's all we remember. The next thing you know, you're back home.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a whole nother show. But
we're bringing you back on. I'd love to have you back on, Carter, sometime soon. We've got a lot to talk about.
To pay you like I did this last time? Do I have to pay you to be on your show? That was really tacky. I'd love to be on because
I take credit cards.
I'm free. I feel free. I'm released. I can talk about this now without fear of repercussions, and it all ties in with the Sasquatch, and that's not even why I think they're connected. I've seen other things, and my witnesses are telling me they are probably connected.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's Barry's in the chat tonight too. Barry's here. He's a hypnotherapist as well. So
that's good. That's good.
He does regressive therapy as well. And so I think Amy was saying that she's going to see him down in Florida at the conference that he and I are going to be at. So
well, I'm just a layman, so I don't know. He's more knowledgeable than I am, but I do know that you should really do it in person if at all possible. If you really, and I did all mine in person. I tried some of the online, and it just the lack of connection was.
Yeah. Well, there's conversations going on in the chat tonight, Carter. Too. Yeah. There's a lot of conversations.
That's all I care about. As long as I started some crap.
I love it. No, this has been amazing. I mean, it really has, and I am just impressed that you had some sessions with Dolores Cannon. I love her. Okay, I love her.
If you're really nice to me, I'll let you listen to them.
I would love to. Oh man, I'd love to listen to this one day.
Yeah, the last regressionist, she wanted them. I said, I want a copy of these. I said, I can't do that. Because I don't know what
to yourself.
I trust her, but I just they're my session, and it's my medical data that you have there. Mental and emotional data on there. So I don't want that to get out. I put it in a book. It's far different than when you're listening to a recording, And I'm cracking myself up on these tapes because I cannot believe what's coming out of my mouth. How do I not know this? How do I not know that I've been to Saturn? They took me up to the rings of Saturn. Was one of my trips, and I was watching the debris in the rings going by me, and they wanted me to go up there and visit these old souls. I said, I just don't know if I want to stay up there and do that, but it just, I walked through Machu Picchu into secret buildings and tunnels below Machu Picchu on spongy seaweed floors. I was just, a bunch of weird things were coming out, So yeah.
I mean, what a blessing though. Like it's got to be a blessing too, like to be able to have these experiences of you having these recordings of all this information coming out, because not a lot of people experience that. Not a lot of people have the guts to do that, first of all. It takes some guts to do that.
The one thing they kept telling me was that you need to take these tapes home. You need to listen to them over and over and over, because you're going to remember stuff that you didn't hear on the first tape. You're going to listen to it again. Oh, I missed that. Wow, that's cool. And I didn't do that. I put those tapes in my closet for 20 years and I didn't touch them. And it's like, what could I have discovered had I re-listened to them? You know, I re-listened to them. What I did was I put them on a special machine and translated them from cassette to Word documents, and then Word document to a book. And so all that stuff just been sitting there. Where would I be spiritually if I had actually done what they told me to do? I don't know. You know, I mean, I might be further along.
Well, you might be, but I believe in divine timing. And there's
Yeah,
a reason that you did it now, that you did it when you did it. It was not time yet.
yeah.
You
I
did-
think Travis Walton, put his boot up my butt and said, what are you doing sitting on this? You want the world to know about your Sasquatch witnesses and
Yeah.
more of them to come forward and tell more stories so more Sasquatch people come forward. What's the difference? Well, there is no difference. You know, you got me. Okay, I'll do it. You know, it was that kind of thing. It was just really funny, you know. But anyway, so, you know, I'd love to come back on and we could just do the whole thing on this. Or we could, you know, do most of this and stuff. Sasquatch. I got still some bizarre stories, but, you know, people, a lot of researchers that do this type of stuff, they have people that they know live on property, so they understand a lot of this, you know, that, you know, they have witnesses that live with them or see them regularly on their property. So, you know, they understand that, you know. Yeah. So, but this has been a blast.
Man, you're doing great work though. You're doing great work. You're in it to win it. Like you're in it to you're not going to leave this earth one day not knowing the mysteries of this world. You're not. Like you're taking the reins, you know.
I hope I don't. I hope I know beforehand. I just need to eat better or I will leave the earth really quick.
Hey, YOLO. I want to say YOLO. You only live once, but in my opinion, I think we live a bunch of times.
Yeah, we live a bunch of times.
This
is my
life.
third time through here. I was a woman in a previous life, and that actually came out in the regression too. I actually was, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I've been a man. I mean, I'm a warrior. I like to fight and stuff, you know. So I've
you still got a little mustache up there. I think you got rid of it.
Yeah, I shaved today. Oh man, I know. There's still remnants, you know, but anyway.
Yeah. No, it did come out. I was a woman and I was alive during Jack the Ripper. I was there, or I saw a woman. I remember seeing all the blood and or intestines on the cobblestone street and the blood running between the stones. And I watched a woman being killed, and I was guilty because I couldn't stop it or help her. And so it was just one of those weird things. So, you know, the whole reason we went to get regressed was to see if I had a past life. And this one woman, one of the actually, she worked on it despite me wanting to talk about my abduction. And she did get a lot of that story out. It was pretty interesting, you know.
That is fantastic. That's amazing. And, you know, because I believe like our past lives, like whatever we've done in our past lives, like it affects us today.
It does.
But it also helps us today, like all this wisdom from all the lives we've had and all the experiences that we've had. And I mean, I believe that I've done whatever I'm doing today, just about a lot of my lifetimes. I mean, I know of like 5 lifetimes that I've had. I know of 5. I think there's been a lot more, but I know of 5, and they include like, and it was so weird because I was told the way that I died was like in war. Okay, being shot. One life I committed suicide, you know, like that kind of stuff. And but I was a writer, you know, and it was like all the stuff that it all pertains to what I do today. It was like,
yeah, you're the culmination of everything you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, it's really fascinating. You find out a lot about yourself.
Yes.
You know, because what you did in a past life that you have no idea that you did, it comes to light, and you go, well, that's why I like blueberries, or you know, there's some thing you do every day that is an offshoot of something you did in a past life. I don't like caves, or I you know. I love mimosa trees, or I hate mimosa trees. You know, there's something that, you know, and you can relate it to something. It's just really bizarre.
It is bizarre.
Yeah.
But it connects the dots, right,
Yeah.
Carter? It connects the dots,
It does.
and it can explain a lot as to why we are the way we are. Like in one of my lifetimes, I was told that I was a nurse in a war and I froze to death. Okay, I do prefer the warmer weather. Okay, and I'm not a big fan of the snow. All right, but I mean, I'm not going to say that's why, but I mean, it could explain some things, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
You never know the subtleties of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, you know, because you too really, you know, for me, I'm too busy living this life to go back too far because it's too much fun right now. I mean, I'm getting things done. So if I have time to ponder, then I'll dwell on stuff. You know?
Oh yeah. Me too. I don't have time to sit around and think too hard about stuff. I'm with you. You and I are pretty busy people, and but listen, we're doing the things that we love, and you and I are sitting here up late talking about Bigfoot and alien abductions and past lives. I mean, it doesn't get better than this. I'm just saying.
No. If someone gave me a bowl of Cheerios right now, some chocolate syrup on it, I'd be in heaven. You know, all the other stuff that was just
Chocolate syrup. Oh my God, that sounds good. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope you'll come back soon. We're going to do this again because I know the audience loved it. We've had a big crowd in here all night tonight, and we've had the best chat tonight. So I want to thank
really good and revealing, and
yeah,
a little release has been done. You know, at least for me, because every time I talk about this stuff, you know, but I just figure like the abduction thing. If I get into the nitty gritty, 2 hours go like that.
Yeah.
You know, so
we've gone over 2 hours tonight. I love it. I mean, I think my record is like 2.5 hours on one of these shows. I think so. I've done that a couple of times.
If I know you're, up for it, I'm good for several. I've done 3 hours. You know, three and a half. You know, on Dave a couple of times. You know, but it's just I'm a talker. You know, and once the fire gets going, it's like this is exciting me. You know, to be able to discuss it with like-minded people that understand it and aren't going, "You're freaking nuts," you know, because it's a release, it's sharing, you know, and somebody right now is going, that reminds me, I need to go get hypnotized, or I need to go check that structure out there. That's weird looking structure out there. Somebody is getting fuel for thought from listening to your show. I mean, that's just what happens.
Yeah. Well, we kind of talk about all of this stuff, and because it's also connected. And I have had similar experiences to what you've had, but I've never had any regression done. I've had like one I did, but it was over one incident that happened in the field. Okay, but I know that it's all connected, and we're all just sitting here trying to figure these things out. And people in the chat have had the same experiences as us as well. And so it's just us talking about it. I mean, I've talked about stuff tonight that I've never said on air ever before.
That's cool.
So yeah. So it was a good release here too, Carter.
Getting very sleepy.
I know.
That's good. You're comfortable enough to talk about it, and I'm comfortable with you to talk about this stuff. And you, like I say, you have like-minded people. So
Yeah. Remember earlier I said, remember, this is just between us.
Yeah. Well, it'll stay between us.
That's thousands of people.
But that's okay. But these are all like-minded, and half of them are going. Half of them are researchers, and the other half have probably been abducted, and they're all going, "Oh yeah, well, cool. I can relate." Because
You never said. Thanks, Barry. I know. We don't judge over here. Okay, we don't judge over here for sure. Thank you, Barry. I appreciate that.
It's surprising how people do judge, because when they have these chats, some of them are really, not many, but enough. There's just people on this. So why are you even listening to this? All you're doing is trashing everything.
Yeah. We don't make fun of people's experiences, because I am humble enough. Okay. Like I've been humbled many times in my life. Okay. And I also think that I've probably died several times in this lifetime already. Okay. And I've had a lot of weird stuff happen, a lot of trauma, just like a lot of us have, but I don't know. Like, I just feel like there's a reason for everything. Okay. And I think a lot of the experiences I had growing up and as a young woman. It was just so I could talk about it today. Okay. Because it helps. It helps everybody who's listening right now.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And that's good. And that's why, that's why I do the books with the Sasquatch, because these people have a voice now. And someday down the road, they can say, well, this is your grandma. This is my story. Now, my name's Betty in this book, but that he didn't tell my name. I didn't want him to use my name, so he didn't. So, but you could tell your kids, and and show the kids that this is real. This is real stuff. This happened to me. Remember, I showed you that place down there by the creek. Well, that's where this happened. Really, Grandma? Yeah. So they got something to show them. They all got a book and a copy of it, so they can show their kids, and whether they believe it or not. But
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of really intelligent chat here. It's really good stuff.
Very much. And I have some of my teammates in here that go out and do Bigfooting with me. So we got Tony Green's in here. We got David Pardue. I don't know. I even saw my mom in here tonight. My mom's in the chat. I'm not gonna say who she is. She's one of the chatters. Yeah. So and Barry's in here. He's a most of the people in here are researchers too. A lot of people, and they're all my friends, right, y'all? We're all friends.
That's what you want, people that can know, and Mike Bryan, former Airborne Commando Special Ops Cryptid.
Cryptid. Whoa.
Well, thank you for your service.
Cryptid. I know. I wonder. I have to wonder. Like, is there some kind of like cryptid special ops? I mean, is that for real? Is that for real? Are you letting us know a secret?
I would not doubt it.
I know, right? I would not doubt it either.
I say if they can militarize it, what did Stalin or Hitler want to do? They wanted to make a super soldier. So super soldiers. Experiments, especially, allegedly. Yeah. Experiments.
Allegedly.
Cloning men and gorillas or whatever.
Well, there's also the alleged Dogman and Cryptid breeding program too, dare I say.
Yeah. So, out there in Montauk. In Montauk, New York, or whatever that island out there.
I just went there. I was just in Montauk. I did some Bigfoot research there with Long Island Bigfoot, who's in the chat tonight. Shout out to Long Island Bigfoot and to Maureen, the girl in her gong. Thank y'all for being members of my channel for 3 months. Oh my gosh, I just saw that. Thank y'all so much.
That long?
Yeah. Do what?
That's awesome. But you got several people you hang out with. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, Long Island. I went up to Montauk, New York. We actually went up there for the 20th anniversary of the biorhythm portal opening for the USS Eldridge to reappear on the ocean right there. And we did some Bigfoot. We did some Bigfooting at Montauk at Camp Hero up there. So that was interesting. That was a good time. I'm very familiar with it. Yeah, that was just last year.
I need to get to your neck of the woods. I need to take you to my research area here. You'd like it. It's active.
Oh yeah, I've got to come to Missouri. I want to come see Eric too. Eric's out there. He's got some property of his own that may have some Bigfoot activity on it and stuff too. So, and we got DA Roberts out there too, my buddy DA, and he lives out in Missouri. So, yeah, a lot of people. Oh yeah, and Tyler from Journey to Truth, he's out there. Okay, so we've got a bunch of folks that I know in Missouri. So I'm gonna have to come visit.
Party for a bunch of weirdos.
Bunch of weirdos. I'm the weirdo warriors, right? right. Yeah. So,
well, whenever you want to do it again, I'll just you tell me if it's 2 weeks or 2 months or a year or whatever.
Well, I know the audience is going to want you back sooner than later. Okay, so we'll plan on it. I'll have you on Spaced Out Radio. Well, Dave's always got you on Spaced Out Radio, so I'll probably bring you in there too. But see, on my channel, we can talk for 2 hours on my channel. On Space Out Radio, we only have an hour. So
well, I've talked a couple hours on his show. I think he made 2 shows out of one of them.
Oh yeah.
I can't.
Okay. Well, I like talking to you for an extended period because we have so much to talk about. But yeah, we've got all sorts of people in the chat that let's see, we've got all sorts of people in the chat from Missouri too. So, all right. Well, tell everybody where they can find your books and your website, Carter, please. Okay. And I'll show pictures of them as you talk. Okay.
Yeah. All my books, I have a website. It's sqexplorer.com.
I got it on the screen.
Yep. Pretty original and creative, huh?
I like
And
it. Is it Sasquatch Explorer?
email is sqexplorer@gmail.com. Again, very creative, huh? So
Very, very creative.
if you want to, I've got 4 Sasquatch books and one of my abduction. So if you want to buy all 4 books, I'll give you a special price on them. Just right now, I'm doing I think $70 for all 4 Sasquatch books, and I'll eat the shipping. So it's a pretty good deal. They're $25, $30 a pop. They're full color, nice paper. They're not the typical pulp paperbacks. It's nice gloss paper and color photos, all that. And I sign them. That brings the value down a little bit, but I'll sign them for you.
Nice.
But anyway, so that's where you can get them. And if you just want to buy 1 or 2, whatever, you need just you can PM me. Just don't me that way. But I'm self-published. You can buy my all my books on Amazon Kindle. Not the abduction book, but the 4 Sasquatch books are there with on Kindle. But my books would be too expensive on Amazon, so I'm self-published. I print them myself and have it done and do it here.
I don't know if y'all saw that. I have this huge, gigantic moth that just flew in my face.
I thought I saw that.
I don't know where it came from. It came out of nowhere.
I didn't just see that.
I just want to let y'all know that was not an orb. That was a gigantic moth. It just literally came out of nowhere.
A sparrow flying by is what I thought it was.
I have my window open, so it came in through the window, and it was attracted to my ring light, I think. So
Yeah. I just saw it again.
it was like right in my face. So
text me, call, email, whatever you want to do. If you want to do another one, I'm glad to.
Okay. You're coming back on, Carter. You're coming back on for sure. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for being here. It really does mean a lot.
That's great.
Okay. Yeah, wonderful.
You're easy to chat with. We had a great time in Nevada, Reno. So yeah, anytime. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, hey girl. Hey, you made it in just in time for the end of the show. I love that. All right. Well, everybody, thank y'all so much for being here. I want to thank everybody who gave super stickers tonight, for my channel members who had anniversaries tonight, Maureen and Mike. Thank y'all so much. This moth is about to fly on my head, probably, just so y'all know. But yeah, thank y'all for being here. This has been awesome. Come see me tomorrow night. I will be at Spaced Out Radio, 10 p.m. Eastern. And I will be there then. And so you guys, please go to sqexplorer.com and get Carter's books, y'all, and show our friends some love, everybody. Okay. Yeah, show them some love. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for being here, Carter. And this has been, I had people in the chat saying this is one of my best shows ever. Okay. So,
that's
sweet. It's one of the best shows.
Well, it's just good energy. So it's just good energy. And they're part of it. They're causation too, not just
that's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. Well, you guys, thank y'all so much for being here too. And I will see you guys tomorrow night. Carter, we'll have you back on soon. You have a wonderful evening. And thanks again for being here. All right. Give your wife my love. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Bye, y'all. Have a good night, everybody. See ya.